There we go. Throw this bad boy on Facebook.
Man, Signal for desktop might be the worst thing. Or at the very least, it has some kinks, I would say.
Like what?
Well, one of them is that it seems to like load messages from like the beginning of time. And
yes, that's right.
yeah,
There has to be a
that
way.
part.
Maybe someone who's watching this can tell us. There has to be a way that you can turn that off, so that Signal doesn't have to every time you open it on desktop. It doesn't have to load every single message that you've ever sent, received, ever.
In the world,
because it takes like half an hour to open the program.
It really does.
All right. Getting this
Let me share
posted
this
out
with the
to
people
social
who would
media.
want to maybe care about watching this on a Sunday.
Sunday night. It's like it's midnight for you, isn't it? I guess it's 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, right in there.
Okay.
Do you go by Maddie or do I just call you Maddie?
People have always called me Maddie. Since I was a little kid, people call me Maddie. Yeah.
It's just like a Massachusetts dirtbag thing. Like I don't know.
Is it like, are you like saying it like an Italian mob boss or something?
I called Venmo Venny. Like, I don't know. I had just like every once in a while there'd be like a smell or something that reminds me that I'm from Massachusetts. Like I might have just had Dunkin' Donuts or something like that. So I just fell into it for a second.
That's funny.
I called Venmo Venny. Just dirtbag stuff.
That's great. All right, folks. Wait for a few more people to get in here. Got to kind of BS a little bit and fill some time. I like the way that that Steven's studio looks.
It looks very nice. This is my kitchen.
It's my kitchen.
This is this is my hustle and bustle downtown. That's where some really good riots were. I went live. Yeah, actually, I went live on Facebook because I had like a career where certainly all my clientele for the most part was very progressive, I would say, and it's fine. I'm very used to that. But so I had always sort of more or less like played my worldview sort of close to the vest. And it was like the day after like this downtown area got all like tore up. And I was so mad. And I saw like the libertarians being, like, yes, we must hear the voices of the unheard, and I was gonna have either an aneurysm or I just went live on Facebook, and the name of it was "Fuck It, Let's Argue," and so I went I went around and I was just showing all like the damage and everything, and I haven't watched it since because I would probably, I probably lost a lot of Facebook friends over it. But I started going off about like critical theory. I started just ranting and raving like a lunatic about how all the bullshit that they learned in college I was actually really, it was kind of ahead of the time. It was before I heard a lot of people kind of publicly saying it, because I think there even were some people who were just like, this really isn't cool, but we're kind of doing this police brutality thing that's getting some attention. So I don't know how much we want, it's sort of some fence sitting going on. But yeah, I went bullshit. I would just go up to random people cleaning up glass of their broken windows and be like, hey, just out of curiosity, do you have the solution for police brutality in the United States? As I don't think people know how expensive windows are. They're not cheap.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's my downtown.
Oh, that was great. That's funny.
That's a very broken window right there. I remember that one.
The one that we can see through the window.
Yeah, absolutely. That was
Wow.
super broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, like triple broken.
But police brutality has been solved, right? It was
Oh,
all
it
worth
was.
it. It was a
Yeah,
worthy trade.
there, dude. There were like without specific. I watched a poor business owner cry, like actual tears cleaning up glass, and if you have a decent sense for people and whatever, you could just kind of see that it was that there was this just. But I was one of the good ones, like that was what she was he or she was experiencing at the time when she's cleaning up her window, and it was rough. It was a real reckoning for a lot of people. I don't know, or I hope it was. Then COVID, but here we are. Merry
Feels
Christmas.
like.
What day is it?
Was that your Merry Christmas rant? You said you had a Merry Christmas
Yeah.
rant and you wanted to open things up with. That was it?
Oh yeah. Hot take. There is a war on Christmas, but it doesn't have anything to do with Starbucks, and it started before the guy who founded Starbucks was even born. It could be a little bit more pithy, but yeah.
It doesn't. That probably wouldn't quite fit on a meme.
No, it's not very good clickbait.
Yeah. So what is the war on Christmas that has existed since before then?
Well, if you're like me, you probably kind of saw this amorphous political thing happening, over the summer, with culminating in like aforementioned, riots and whatnot. And I think people were trying to figure out, was this communism? Is it what's happening here? Is it this thing cultural Marxism? Are you even supposed to say cultural Marxism anymore? I heard you're not supposed to say that, but Jordan Peterson said it, but people call him a Nazi. So maybe, I don't know. Does saying cultural Marxism make you a Nazi? And it was trying to so everyone was kind of just trying to figure out what is this thing, this amorphous, weird, critical theory-ish, communist-ish, crazy thing happening. And it was the video that you sent to me a couple of days ago with an Italian philosopher, maybe.
Yeah, he's probably a philosopher. He was a theologian, according to James Lindsay. He was effectively a theologian for the progressive faith.
And that really was sort of the missing link. To previous ideologies and kind of what we're seeing today. And the interesting thing about it was, I don't know, I don't remember hearing too much about time preference before kind of hanging out in libertarian circles, but I would hear it a lot. I don't know what the claim to fame is for libertarians and time preference. Did Hoppe used to talk about it?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so but
Rothbard talks about it too.
Okay, all I gotta say is you got nothing on these guys. You know what I mean? Maybe you can talk about it, but this is a guy who was in jail in what period of time?
Around World War One.
Okay.
The guy we're talking about is Antonio Gramsci.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Continue.
Oh, me. Okay. Yeah. You can probably take it over from here, but he really does seem to be sort of the missing link in terms of the older, communist type ideas and sort of what we're seeing today. And I talked to a lot of people who we're just trying to figure out exactly what it is. But once you sort of listen to this guy talk about what would be necessary, it all starts to really make sense. And the war on Christmas thing was this, it is explicitly stated that you need to go after what do you call them, culture centers of culture or something like that. And one was the family, the nuclear, the family. He was very explicit about that, and also religion.
Yep.
And so the fact that we have the Pope that the Catholic Church has right now.
Is explicitly anti-Christian.
Right. If you've been looking at any of what that guy has been coming out with and just kind of going, it doesn't seem right. It's just be aware. It's very intentional. So Starbucks and your Christmas cups, your holiday cups, that is that's part of it. Sure. That's just, that's allowed to happen to, make people feel, I guess, demoralized, or just anything that's anything that serves as like just being a flex on the opposition, you know. But the Starbucks cups, that's just a little extra, you
So
know.
it turns out that the boomercons were right. They just don't
You know what,
realize how right they
sometimes
are.
yeah.
Yep. So the boomercons are more in touch with, there's actually a lesson here. The boomercons are more in touch with, I don't know, like the heart of the culture kind of than libertarians are. And there's probably nobody in the world that libertarians like to dunk on more than the boomercons. But
Right.
so neither
It's
one of them
annoying,
has
kind
the
of.
full picture. They're each bringing half the picture to the crowd here. And if they would just talk to each other and understand each other, they would see that if you take the libertarian understanding about the ideal society and like how it could be governed legally, and you take the boomercon perspective on religion and the family and patriotism and nationalism, and you blend those two together, that's how each of them can fully realize the world that they want to live in. But unfortunately, the libertarians are as bad on culture as the boomercons are on politics. And so the result of that is that both of them perpetually lose, even though they both don't realize that they both want to live in the same world, or that they would both be perfectly happy living in the same world together. So, but what just so happens that they are amassed against I don't know, like a behemoth, a leviathan of the basically the entire left wing, who are more than happy to work together on absolutely anything as long as it involves destroying the right. That's their sole purpose for being alive, is to destroy the right and everything that the right stands for. And so for someone, so if you here's a good way to decide if you're left wing or right wing. If your perspective is, I don't really care what other people do, I just want them to leave me alone, you're right wing. If your perspective is anything along those lines, if your perspective is, I want everyone else to believe the way that I do, and you can probably talk me into doing just about anything in order to make that happen, then you're left wing. That's a really good proxy for each of them. So that's kind of one of the things that we want to get into the show today. That was kind of a little primer, and we're going to kind of set some groundwork for one of these ideas that I wanted to play around with. So the name of the podcast, the name of this episode here is deliberately kind of provocatively titled. I think I can't remember exactly what I called it. I said something about how the GameStop saga proves that socialism
isn't just a left-wing idea.
Isn't just a left-wing idea. So that's intended to trigger right-wing people and libertarians. And really, the person who's triggered by that idea, by me saying that, is someone that I don't want listening to the show. That's someone I don't want to talk to. I want to talk to the people who hear that and they go, okay, say more. Like, what are you trying to say there? I want to talk to someone who's willing to hear kind of a contradictory, weird idea, because I find that all the coolest stuff I ever learn is when I study contradictory, weird ideas. So it's not that I'm married to this idea necessarily, and I want you to listen to me. It's just that if this is something, if you like contradictory, weird ideas, then this is the place to be. So okay. As Amy says, don't forget to like and subscribe, and what she say? Smash the subscribe button. Get it, Amy?
Smash it.
She's Amy. We need our cheerleader here. So she has to remind me to do all the like podcasty stuff, because I just want to talk. So this is, for those of you who've never listened here before, now 14 minutes into our stream. This is a show called King Pilled, and yeah, you basically probably have a pretty good idea already of what we want to talk about. It's going to be politics, it's going to be culture, it's going to be history, and we try to talk about the stories that nobody else tells about those specific things. We want to look in the area in society where nobody else is looking, because that's where you'll find some of the best and brightest new ideas. And that's kind of the way that human societies work. This is how human societies arrange themselves. They start out with one person who finds a new idea, and they start playing around with it, and they go tell someone else about it. And that person comes and joins them, and they get a third person. You get more and more people together all around this idea. And eventually those people form some type of an organization. And traditionally, it's basically always been a religion of some sort. And then when those religions need to defend themselves, you get politics. and then that's where human societies develop from there. So then the rest of human cultural like anthropology is really just kind of this narrative of a back and forth between the people who want to be left alone and the people who don't want to leave them alone. And eventually the people who don't want to leave them alone will kind of like pester, and they'll build and build and build until a war breaks out. And the other people, it's kind of like the episode of The Simpsons where I can't remember if it's like Maggie or someone is poking Bart, and he's like, "Ouch, quit it! Ouch, quit it! Ouch, quit it! Ouch, quit it! Ouch, quit it!" So that's the relationship between the left and the right, where the left is constantly poking the right and poking the right and poking the right, trying to get the right to lash out, trying to get the right to react as like a kicked dog. The kicked dog eventually snaps, and then that gives them the justification to put the dog down. And each time they get the opportunity to put the dog down, they get to promote more and more of their power, and they get to they're in pursuit of a utopian world. They're not satisfied with the world that they live in. They want to create the ideal world, and they're willing to do just about anything in the pursuit of that. And that's basically the fundamental psychology of the left wing. So our goal here is to try to talk to, in general, we want to try to talk to right-wing people. That's kind of, those are going to be the people who are probably most interested in hearing what we have to say. But we want to encourage right-wing people to understand how left-wing people think and how they work. Because once you understand how they work, that can inform you of how to act. Because ultimately, most of us don't really want to see a totalitarian leftist state like taking over where we live. It doesn't really matter what your relationship to government is. Unless you love it, then that's going to be your relationship to it. It's like, I don't really want that. So, yeah. Okay. So that's kind of a bit of a background. I almost started going to monarchy, but we'll leave that for later. So
Can I ask a
go ahead.
question about the left and right thing? And I don't know, maybe it'll be helpful for me, but maybe people who don't watch Ted Kaczynski videos all the time also. Losers.
They're not Ted pilled.
Yeah. So I think I want to see if I'm getting this right. When we talk about the sort of political, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. All right. The political compass as it's understood today, left, right, and maybe even adding the authoritarian, libertarian. Okay. What purpose does that serve? Presumably for the Church of the Progressives, presumably. But if I'm wrong, then what purpose does it serve to whoever else? And then, in terms of the right and left in the way that you're defining them, did Uncle Ted use that kind of global kind of left right political compass also, and maybe Yarvin also, does he use that one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yarvin's is that the left is chaos and the right is order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then okay. That's pretty similar to what Uncle Ted worked with as well. That and that chaos is there's perpetual tension between order and chaos, where order is trying to restrain chaos, and chaos is trying to beat back order. And you have to have the two of them in tension with one another. They have to balance each other out, because if you get too much of one, you wind up with the other one. And if you get too much of the other one, you wind up with the first one. So if you have too much order, you create chaos ultimately. And that's actually, that actually segues into what we were going to talk about here today with this, was this right-wing perspective on socialism. And one of the ideas that I really want to get people talking about and understanding is this idea of bio-Leninism. And it's a term that was coined by a blogger for the school of thought. The school of thought that we're describing here, this like wanting to live in the same world as the right wing and libertarian people, but having a better understanding of how the left actually operates, that basically puts you into the camp of neo-reactionary. And that's just kind of how those people are identified at the moment. That doesn't mean that every single person who would fall into that camp necessarily subscribes to every idea associated with it. It's NRX for short. But it's that kind of is the broad term for like they try to use alt-right sort of, but alt-right is more expansive than There's more people included under the umbrella term of alt-right than there is under the umbrella term of neo-reactionary. So one of the more prominent bloggers, his name is Spandrel, and he's the one who coined this term bio-Leninism. And it basically is it's kind of the defining trait of the left wing in America today. And really, when people are saying cultural Marxism, when they're using that term, what they really are trying to describe, that like they've attached their idea to a phenomenon, but they don't totally have the best hold on it. They just kind of recognize that there's a beast there that they're trying to understand and restrain. But like if you pull the curtain back and you see clearly what that beast is bio-Leninism. And it's the ideas of Leninism applied biologically. So a lot of this is built out of the ideas of Antonio Gramsci. And a lot of this stuff here, I had the understanding of bio-Leninism in the past. I encountered it sometime last year. But the nature of Antonio Gramsci and his thinking and his work is really what that was a piece of the puzzle that I really got together here over the last couple of days. And it started with hearing this podcast from James Lindsay. And I need to find the name of the podcast, name of that show here real quick, because I want to give him credit. I don't want to just
new discourses.
Yeah, new discourses. And he posted an episode here just recently, and it's got Antonio Gramsci, cultural Marxism, wokeness, and I think he says and Leninism 4.0, because that's he contends that the Leninism that we're facing now, that wokeness is Leninism 4.0. He says there was Lenin was Leninism 1.0, then Stalin was Leninism 2.0, Mao was Leninism 3.0, and now wokeness is Leninism 4.0. And it's really made possible by the contributions of Antonio Gramsci, who was an Italian communist who, it's bio-Leninism. It's Leninism with bio in front of it, exactly like that, Wyman Taylor Bear. So what is bio-Leninism, and where did it come from with Antonio Gramsci? So Antonio Gramsci said he took the Marxist view of the world, and he said that to achieve the Marxist utopian paradise, you have to take over the culture. He described this thing that he said was cultural hegemony, which is where you have like a specific idea that has hold of the culture. And what he said is that capitalist and Christian culture, that as long as it persisted and as long as it held a grip on the society, that there was no way that the Marxist economic system could ever be successful. What's up, Jonathan? And so what he prescribed was, he said that you have to destroy the culture. In essence, you have to break the culture down and then build it back up yourself, and you have to create a culture that's amenable to the Marxist ideas. And so it was then based on that the postmodernists really built on a lot of his work because of that. And they started, he was drawing himself in large part from Hegel, and who was an alchemist. And so this is where you get this complete detachment from reality, completely deranged, like a system of beliefs, a set of thoughts. Because they're completely bonkers, and they're completely divorced with reality. They're completely at odds with reality. But that's the thing. That's a feature, not a bug. Mm-hmm. It's by design, because they're they're explicitly trying to subvert the culture and destroy it. And what Gramsci said is that has to be accomplished through a number of institutions, and he listed off the church as like first and foremost. The church and religion have to be subverted and put toward their ends. So there was the church, and then there was the family, the nuclear family, and then there was media and education and law. That all of these institutions had to be basically taken over and purged of their old ideas and transitioned into this completely new set of ideas. And that it was only upon that being accomplished that they could then, he was a Leninist, so he believed in forming a communist party. He said it can only happen through a communist party that has to be formed by the elites, because the elites, they understood Pareto and the circulation of the elites, and the elites are the ones who are going to run the show. So So that's Lenin's position, is that there has to be a communist party. And Gramsci was a Leninist, so he said that this has to be accomplished in cooperation with a communist party, and only then could they ever achieve the utopian vision. So bio-Leninism then is this, it's actually kind of it's a tendency almost, and it's a tendency that's being seeded and exploited and taken over by the communists in essence. And what it is that human beings are status seeking beings. We strive for status, we want status, because you're like on a biological, like just a fundamental scientific level, that's what your success will depend upon. Your success depends upon the person who has the bottom status is screwed. They're never going to have people there to look out for them. There's no one helping them. They're completely isolated. Nobody likes them. They're not going to live for very long. So you don't want to be on the bottom rung of that. So all human beings are always constantly fighting this, playing this status game, trying to make sure that they aren't the bottom rung. What happens in a society, especially a capitalist society, is that eventually the income inequality starts pulling apart, and the rich are starting to get richer and the poor are starting to get poorer, which is an application of this 90-10 law, that to he who has much more will be given. This is just a law of nature. You get the law of attraction, all this stuff all goes into that. So as the elites and the lower class get pulled further and further apart, eventually it becomes unfeasible for the lower class to transition up through the middle class and into the elites. And so what they realize is that especially the people who are the least talented or the least likely to become a member of the elite class. So someone who's disabled, someone who is ugly, someone who is like an alternate sexuality, or someone who is any of these sorts of like marginalized peoples all realize that they have no chance of ever making it to the top. And in a society that's meritocratic in any way, that rewards people in any way on that sense, these people are never going to be successful. They're never going to achieve that status. So their only hope is to join up with other people who are like them. So basically, losers are drawn to losers. They have to work together, and they have to to join forces to accomplish anything and be successful. This is their thinking, at least. And so Marxism was targeted at people who are economically disadvantaged. And it was basically that you get this the dictatorship of the proletariat. So you pull together all the proletariat for the communist revolution that overthrows the bourgeoisie. Now, in a society that's differently class driven, it's not necessarily less, but it's differently class driven from an economic standpoint. The new attack vector, the more successful, the more fruitful attack vector for the communists is to create a cabal or a movement of these people, of the disadvantaged people, especially because of socialism, because of the story of socialism. Because what it is like, if you're a successful person, then you're less likely to be inclined to the idea of socialism, because you're like, hey, I can be successful on my own. Just tell me the rules of the system and I'll be successful. I don't care what the system is. But then there's other people who are like, it's very hard for me to be successful. I'm ugly, I'm slow, I'm fat, I'm dumb, I'm not that smart. I smell funny. People don't like me. I don't get along with people. Any of those types of things. They're like, well, I'm not going to be, it takes a very special, specific system for me to be successful. So they preach to them this message of the idea of the socialist utopia. And that ultimately that's the secret to their success. They have to band together. They have to join this communist party to overthrow the bourgeoisie and to institute this communist utopia. So that's the idea of bio-Leninism. It's this tendency of the downtrodden to join together, to join forces, and then with that to have the communist elites prey upon that tendency and go after these people and promise them the moon. Say, just join our party and we'll take you somewhere. So here's the thing that Stephen was getting at the beginning, the high versus low time preference thing. These people plan. These people don't screw around. They are playing the long game. the like people who are prominent in Black Lives Matter right now were like Weather Underground activists in like the 70s and even before that. And even like these people plan cross generationally because fundamentally this is actually it's a product of the Enlightenment. Ultimately we're reaching the ultimate end of the Enlightenment. So these people are fundamentally in a root part of their brain, they're Christians. They're operating on a Christian worldview. They're operating on a Christian worldview that they've stripped God out of. It's for people who are familiar with with Protestantism versus Catholicism. This is the Reformation being taken to its end point, that they've ultimately reformed God out of their religion. And they've replaced God with the state or with some sort of utopian vision of the state. And it's really that the state's responsibility is to bring about the fullest realization of man in the image of God. It's the deifying of the self and bringing about this image of the utopian man. That's it's very Christian eschatologically. It's just they've pulled the God out of it. So it's very bizarre. These are very bizarre people. So I'm trying to remember where I was going with that. So Bio-Leninism. Okay, so it's this tendency of the Bio-Leninists of the people who are inclined to Bio-Leninism being pulled in and weaponized and indoctrinated by the communists. And this is why it's literally a religion. This has all the traits of a religion. It has the things you must do to achieve salvation. It has blasphemy. It has original sin. It has like every trait of a religion. It has, and for these people, their religious leaders are professors, media organizations, media professionals. So when you watch like Rachel Maddow or Chris Cuomo or Brian Stelter, these guys, watch them through the lens, and that applies to Fox too, Tucker Carlson. Watch them through this lens. Imagine that you are what was it in Hunger Games? You've been watching Hunger Games, right?
I've not watched.
Oh, you haven't watched it yet? Okay, so it's like I can't remember which district it is. It's like the District 11s or 12s or whatever, the one that Katniss is from. It's the peons, the people who are the poorest, most downtrodden, oppressed district. Imagine that you're from that district and you're listening to the District 1 guy who says that he cares about you, describing the behavior of all of the other District 1 people who don't care about you. That's Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is a minister. He's ministering to his flock. He's saying, I'm coming down from on high to give you the gospel, to teach you what other people believe so that you know what to believe. You know how to believe and you know how to act because I've informed you of the proper way. I've informed you of the way that people behave. So that's why you'll hear him say things like, this is what people are saying, or this is what people are thinking. If you already knew that, he doesn't need to tell you that. So what he's doing is he's saying, this is what's happening, therefore this is what you should believe and this is how you should act. So the same thing is true on CNN or on MSNBC. All these people, these are ministers. Look at them as like televangelists, preaching to a flock of people that are waiting for their message and waiting for their marching orders, waiting for their instructions. What do I do now? I go protest? Great, let's go protest. Okay, what next? We need to call Ted Cruz's office? Okay, let's go. Let's call Ted Cruz's office. All right, what's next? And these people, this is where they get their marching orders. They have it online too. They have journalists and stuff. This is the relationship. We're literally living in a theocracy. And as Mitch's Moldbug says, it's an atheocracy because it's a theocratic Christian atheist country. This is the derangement of all this. And these people, if you want to understand them, you have to go back to French and Italian and German and Russian thinkers of the 1800s because this is how long they've been planning this. This is how deeply entrenched their ideas are. We're in the middle of a religious takeover of the United States. We're being taken over by a mad religious cult. And you have to understand how they think. You have to understand how they operate because when you do, you can predict what they're going to do. Are you going to say something, Stephen?
Oh, yeah, it's just, I mean, these are the idea is that they are tasked with bringing the kingdom of God on earth.
Yes.
they've just extracted the God out of it.
Yes, exactly.
So like where there's that that void, there's plenty of things that you can insert into that. And so it's really no coincidence that the people who are like very that seem religious about COVID, probably
They
are,
probably are.
there's probably not a lot of like super devout Christians, actual Christians in there, is because that space in their life is occupied.
Yes.
And you
That
can say what you
program's
want
already
about,
running.
right, exactly. So but that's an impulse that is in every human for the most part. So that's why it's very easy that people can kind of grab onto it. And with the sort the sort of like underlings, right? The underclass. The thing about people in an underclass is like they don't have a lot to lose, so they're willing to do various things. So if you go back to like the destruction of property and the riots and all that stuff, when you take over like an institution such as the law, you can see that that the progressives, they sort of do have this like this ruling underclass, that does all the dirty work for them, and then you get frustrated, more like right-leaning people who want to just simply go outside during during a lockdown to protest that idea. And they are, their businesses are shut down, they're fined, they're put in jail, they're demonized by the media, they're super spreader events and everything like that. And it's just, all of this fits together so well when you understand that this is why they're taking over the institutions first. You could riot to your heart's content. And I think I've heard the stories of different towns, but even I talked to the mayor of my town face to face, and she straight up said, "Oh yeah, I think the police did a great job. We weren't going to have them do anything with property damage because property can be replaced." And it's right, yeah. So it's like you can have discontented people on say the left and the right who don't have a lot to lose and might be pushed to do any number of things, but they're operating in systems that don't treat them even remotely the same, and it's all part of the plan.
Yep.
It's all part of the plan. So I mean, even you obviously you see what happened at the Capitol, and people are people are going to go to jail for. I mean, it's not funny, but I mean, if you, yeah, what else can you do?
People were invited in.
Yeah.
The police opened the door and invited them in, and they're going to go to prison. This is
right.
This is how, and this is a feature. This is a feature of this belief system. So, and here's where the right just does not get it. This is where they just get the shit beat out of them with their own arms, because the hypocrisy is a feature. Therefore, you don't want your own people, you advocate for your own people to not receive the same consequences as your enemies. This is war. They understand this is war. Their explicit goal is to subvert logic, to subvert reason, to subvert rationality, to subvert all meta-narratives, because a meta-narrative is a religion. And that's where you get politics from. And these people, their goal is total conquest. Total conquest politically, total conquest religiously. In a game like that, you don't pull any punches. You don't bar anything. You go all out and you win. So because they've taken over they've taken over the legal institutions, and the way that they did this was through the universities, because they know how people work. They know that if you want to take over people and you want to control the way that they think, you go for their educational systems. So they infiltrated academia for the last 60 years, 55, 70 years, something like that. They've been infiltrating it just one after another, populating it with themselves, getting up into positions of authority and to the deans and administration and hiring their people. They've completely infiltrated it. They played the long game. And they said, we're going to take over the entire academic institution, and then we're going to start cranking out people that think like we do. And they'll jump at any opportunity to take any advantage. This is what we were talking about last week with AOC and Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is more than happy to reach across the aisle and work with someone of the left wing when they agree on something. When he does that, AOC spits on his hand and says, screw you. And she will gain political capital for it because she knows how to play the game. The game is rigged in her favor explicitly. And right-wing people go and they start like trying to argue with these people and trying to reason with them. And they point out their hypocrisy. Look at this. You're so hypocritical. In this case, you did this, but then you did this. And they're like, yeah, so what are you going to do about it?
I was just wondering how
Nothing?
many.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I was wondering about just about how many actual conversations or cumulative times. That's the biggest. What in the world is that you're drinking? That looks massive.
It's a macho from Del Taco.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's massive. It's way too much soda.
I was wondering just how much cumulative time was spent with very well-intentioned people, hearing this crazy stuff, not necessarily realizing that it's crazy by design, and trying to let me sit down with my left-leaning friend and just, well, you see, I'm married to a Black woman, and we have biracial kids, and I know it doesn't make me guaranteed that I'm not racist, but I've certainly chosen to spend my life with her, and that person's just screaming racist, and I just wonder how many well-intentioned conversations were had over the course of when did woke stuff start? 2010, 11, 12?
Yeah, 12, 13, 14 is when it really started to kick off.
Okay, yeah, so let's say 12. Yeah, from 2012, any time through Trump. I just wonder how many frustrated individuals there were just trying to go that route, and how much longer that will continue. Where you're trying to use the logic and the reason, to try to bridge that gap. This is the whole practice of the Weinstein brothers. This is what they've dedicated themselves to, is that we're going to try to reason with these people, and we're going to try to persuade them that you can be a lefty but not be insane. And their approach is far more insane than the people that they're talking to. The people that they're talking to are acting entirely rationally, which is the great irony. They want to overthrow rationality, but they're acting rationally. They're taking the best possible strategy to promote their views. Yeah. Who were they trying to put together a presidential ticket, right? And it was some former CIA guy or something. It was just the worst. I don't know. I felt. And no doubt, they're smart guys and everything like that. And I'll give one of them. I get them confused, but one of them, I will give credit to for putting up a challenging idea that I now agree with. I didn't want to agree with at the time, but I think it was on a Rogan interview. It was one of the Weinstein brothers was on with Jordan Peterson, and I think Jordan Peterson kind of had the view of someone who is following the rules, or kind of a good versus evil kind of a thing, and how I think he was trying to present the idea that good could win out by my whole philosophy with the nature of man and good and evil was that good would win out by a narrow margin. And the Weinstein brother, whoever it was, jumped in and just said, no, on a long enough timeline, the person who ignores the rules and is ruthless will win out on a long enough timeline. And I didn't want to believe that, and especially if you look at it when we see where we're at now, I still don't want to believe that. Vashley says the unity ticket. Yeah. Super centrism is
extra super centrism. Yeah.
But yeah, and it was just he just put out there. He's like, whoever the person who cheat, they're gonna win. Right. And that just makes sense. Like you like there's this right-wing insistence upon thinking about this hypothetical reality where somehow like people just act the way we want them to, and the actual reality which we can just view all around us, that you can just look clearly at. You don't have to abstract it away and evaluate this abstraction to decide what to believe about a situation.
You don't have to take every situation and say, okay, now every single time this situation comes up, what would I do? No, just what would I do in this situation? Think that way. That's all you have to do. Stop trying to universalize everything. That's a lefty thing.
Mm.
Don't universalize it. Focus, what would I do in this situation? If this situation was the only one that mattered, if this decision was the only one that I had to make, what decision would I make? Because that's what you're doing. That's the world that you're in. You're in this world. You're not in a hypothetical world. You're not in every possible world. You're in this world.
It's not the 10 people, that are involved in this video right now that have a society and have laid out the groundwork and have, recruited, even the 2,000, the 10,000, the 100,000 people that would be in it, and kind of organized a way of, well, what would we do if someone's falling behind, financially, well, there would be charities. Okay, sure. That's not the world that we're living in. So we're about 1 million miles away from that. So the like you were talking about socialism, for the sake of not being necessarily just a left wing idea, is like, well, no, you don't want hungry, desperate people. Especially, you especially don't want hungry, desperate people that hate you and are aligned with people who hate you. It's like, I just, with the whole, we talk about Ancapistan or whatever, people who are still on that, everyone has these ideal societies and principles and virtues, and that's great. But I mean, even if you're solving a Rubik's Cube, you often have to move away from having all of the same color on the side. Like there's a specific order, and it doesn't always.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy.
Like you're moving towards the end result.
Right. That's a fantastic analogy because you're.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, that's really good. That was great. You say fewer words than I do, but you pack way more meaning in each word that you say. So
That's cute. You want to see something? I have an allergic reaction on my eye. I don't know if you can see it from there, but I just want to. There's a hive. My hair's on fire. See, there you go. I did that on purpose, just for views or whatever. I was trying to show you the hive that's on my eye. God damn it. Yeah, it really does smell bad.
The sound of your hair catching on fire.
Yeah. Is that the viral video that you wanted me to make? Oh yeah, and Dave Smith platforms white supremacists, and I want to debate him on Lions of Liberty. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was hilarious.
Thank you.
Oh man, okay, yeah. Okay, so let's get back to it. You were on a roll there. So
I say a few words and light my hair on fire.
So that was exactly correct though. That if you are creating a society where you have an underclass that's desperate, that's hungry, that's angry, and they hate you, the last thing that you want to do is promote that sentiment. Yeah. So somehow there's this breakdown where right-wing people don't realize just how close to getting kicked out of the car they are. And they're like, oh, well, if I debate them a little bit better, then
that's so fucking funny. That's the funniest shit ever. Matt Messina is very smart. Messina immediately lights hair on fire. God damn it, that's funny. Oh shit. Oh, sir, if we had t-shirts, you would get one immediately, if not sooner. God damn, is that funny. God. Holy shit. Oh shit, maybe need an intermission.
Oh man.
All right, I need a glass of wine. Please say something.
Oh man, this is the hardest I've laughed in a long time. Oh, that was fantastic. Whew. Okay. Gotta pull this together. Oh, we're gonna have to dig that one back out.
Cheers to that. Oh God.
Okay.
All right. So I'm smart.
You're
And I
smart.
say, yeah. All right. Ready,
Yeah.
go.
I'll
You
just
were
repeat it.
saying
You're
it.
smart. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So right-wing people just don't realize just how close they are to getting kicked out of the car, and they still, for whatever reason, have this idea that the best thing to do here is to try to argue these people into the ground. Somehow, if you win one more argument, suddenly they're just going to change their mind. And for like what reason? There's no they have nothing. You provide them nothing. You aren't offering them anything. And this is especially true for libertarians because you're not just not offering them anything, you're literally offering them nothing. You're just saying, your ideology sucks. I don't give a shit about what you care about. You should believe what I do. That's the libertarian message in a nutshell. Like what? So, on one hand, they have these people with wealth and power who are promising them literal utopia if they just go vote, or if they just go yell at their uncle on Facebook, or if they just go like put up a profile, a outline thing around their profile on Instagram. They'll get literal utopia where all of their needs are met, and they don't even have to work, and someone writes them a paycheck, where their school is all free. Why would these people ever pay attention to you or care about anything that you are saying to them? You don't offer them anything. This is where the right is just dying because they don't have anything to bring to the table. So the question is, what do you bring to the table? What do you fill that gap with? And that's where I want this conversation to start. What do we fill that gap with? We fill the gap with a religion. This is what there has to be a religion. I'm not saying there has to be a specific one. That's the next question. The next question is, okay, which religion is most adaptive? Which religion is best at bringing people together? And which religion is best at combating this ideology that's being foisted upon us? So that's, again, this is just, people want to make this a moral conversation. They want to make this like, oh, what is right? Honestly, I don't really care what's right. I care what works. Because if something doesn't work, then it doesn't matter if it's wrong or right. I mean, maybe you say, okay, just do the thing that doesn't work, and hopefully at the end of this whole thing, we'll find out what happens. Personally, great, go for it. Do that if that's what you want to do. I don't really subscribe to that because I don't know that I have another life other than this one, and I'd kind of like to make the most of this one. So there has to be. Go ahead.
Yeah, when you were asking, what do you fill it with? I started just kind of like thinking, what if we just really went old school? Just old school and just like filled it back with God. You know what I mean? It's just like just God, just straight up, God, no pretense of the separation of church and nothing. Just like, nah, God's back. God's
That's
back.
right.
You guys
Yep.
took him out and God is just back.
God's punk now.
Yeah. It was that meme about the 5th of November. It's like, oh, I do want a Catholic theocracy, or whatever. But yeah, that's what we're rolling with. That's what we're rolling with.
Well, yeah.
It does have to be spiritual because like that logical progression of okay, I'm talking to people for the better part of 10 years and using logic and reason, and they just keep calling me racist, and they're kind of being racist, but they don't get that they're being racist also, and none of this makes sense, and it's so frustrating. And then so then maybe you listen to us for 5 minutes and you realize it's like, no, it's a religion. It just doesn't have God. It's like an atheistic religion, but not in the fun like cheeky haha way. It's like it's a legit religion. Whether they know it or not, it's a religion.
It's a religion that wants to crucify non-believers.
Right. Like, yeah. And they're looking at you and calling you racist because you are a heretic.
Yes. They would crucify you if they could get away with it. That's what they're working on. They realize they're playing the long game. They're playing the long game. They realize if they just start crucifying people they disagree with, that's not an adaptive trait for their belief system. That's a good way to get their belief system extinguished. So they're not going to do it until they can get away with it. Yeah. 5 years away.
So I remember I was actually out here, like the day after, I don't know. It's interesting. It kind of keeps coming back to that, I guess, because I mentioned it. However, what I did have, I had kind of a moment of realization. A guy came. Long story short, a guy came back and was just kind of ranting and raving about how he was falsely accused of breaking a window and such and such and such and such. But he was going on this long sanctimonious, and I know coming from us, haha, long and sanctimonious, I get it. But you know, it was this whole thing, and he was just using the moment. And if you had, I mean, half of any kind of common sense, you could just see what he was doing. And then he mentioned his SoundCloud. Like people had like the video out, and you know, it was live. He was just very clearly, and so, but even before but then he said, you know, check out my SoundCloud, you know, whatever. And I just said, this is an ad, you know, and just huffed and kind of like walked away. I got bum rushed by a cop, you know. I got pushed up on by, and it was in that, and I have it on video too, I think maybe, but it was a separate live video. It wasn't the "fuck it, let's argue" video.
That would have been
I might
amazing.
give a comment here. Yeah, I might. It was. I don't know. It was an interesting live video on Facebook that alienated anyone that I know. But I was at that moment. I realized, oh man, they have the cops now. They got the cops. Like you think it's just, you know, if you have some bizarre idea that it's like, oh well, it's Hollywood and it's education and you know it's the news media, but you know the cops are, you know, all
the people with guns are on our side.
Conservatives, yeah. No, wrong. They'll do whatever, and you know, that's like at that point it's ceded ground.
Well, and here's the thing: is that all these people, their mentality is, oh, when it comes to it, I'll just be able to shoot my way out. In essence, that's kind of the, like, from a 50,000-foot view, that's kind of like the conservative or right-wing perspective. And when it comes to it, I'll just shoot my way out, whether ideologically or literally or whatever. But here's the thing. These people are well aware that that's what you think. So what they're doing is they're removing every possible opportunity for you to shoot your way out, because they understand that a full frontal assault is a good way for you to make you shoot your way out. So they're not going to do the full frontal assault until they can get away with it. So by the time they make their move, by the time they snap the bear trap shut, they understand that your foot is fully in it and that you're not going to get away. They're in the process of bringing the teeth of the trap together now. And the right-wing people are sitting in there like debating with them about the nature of what the best brand of bear trap is. Well, they're about to latch it onto your foot.
And so in order to combat that, you know, once you've kind of moved past the idea of like, oh, logic and reason is not working in this conversation for me whatsoever, you know, or in any way at all in dealing with what I've been dealing with, you know, for the past decade or even before that, it has to be whether you like it, if you look at it that you are a heretic to these people and they are fighting on a spiritual level, even if they wouldn't say that, whatever you decide to combat that with has to be on that level also. It's not going to be facts and reason. So like when I was saying, oh, what do we feel that? Oh, well, what if we just do God straight up? It's like, okay, maybe we won't do God like Jesus Christ, church God, but whatever you do, replace that for yourself in terms of what you're combating this with. It has to be God. Now, what God is to you, that's different. But just no, I mean, it has to be God.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're not on any kind of level playing field whatsoever. I mean, you're just a dimension away from them entirely. So, you know, if you're looking at God as like a mosaic of truth and virtue and wisdom, okay, then that's, you know, that's how you look at God. But if you're planning to combat this with anything less than that, I mean, just, you know, give up now.
It's a spiritual belief system, and like you said, it has to be, the only way you can combat it is with a spiritual belief system. So then again, using the same principle, you don't need to solve the whole problem in one go. Just deal with the problem that's right in front of you. So you have an enemy that wants to crucify you, and they have a spiritual belief system. So whatever you come up with to try to solve this problem, it needs to have a spiritual belief system component to it. So now you start thinking about, okay, well, what's the best spiritual belief system? Let me build this from the ground up. Let me start with this. Okay, so I know I need a spiritual belief system. What's the best one? So what would be the characteristics? What would be the traits of the best belief system? Let's break that down and let's come up with each of the things that we need. If you start thinking about this way and start dealing with each situation on its face, rather than trying to take the situation and pull it out and say, okay, now what would I do to defeat all situations like this? You don't need that, because you're not facing all situations like that. You're facing that situation like that. This is the way that they think, and to combat them, you have to think the same way, and you have to build yourself up into a person that is either A, capable of rendering yourself immune from them no matter what they do. And that could include just not caring. If you just don't care, if you're not attached to anything, that's the black pill. People are like, I don't care. I'm not attached to anything. They're going to do what they're going to do, whatever. I'm just going to deal with it when it comes. That's one possibility. Or making yourself into someone who can defeat them, who can overcome them. So either make yourself immune to them or overcome them. What is required to put yourself in that position? And that's where you then kind of get into basically what you're asking is, what sort of person does it take to live a successful life? In essence. So you've kind of gone through politics, you've backdoored into religion, and then just sort of found your way into self-help, which then leads you ultimately to business. And once you get into business, pretty soon you'll make a whole bunch of money and you get your way back into politics. And this whole thing is just this, it's just daisy chained together. All these ideas are all attached to one another. So go look at Antifa arrest mugshots. Look at the types of people who are in Antifa who are being arrested. Now go to them.
Chinese people ruining this goddamn country. Goddamn immigrants.
You're gonna get this channel deleted.
Yeah.
Look at those people. Look at the people in Antifa arrest mugshots. And think about going and talking to them about why they should be anti-Fed. Go have that conversation with those people. See what describing the downside of the Fed, see what that gets you with someone like that. See how many words in you can get before you get Molotov cocktailed. These are people who have nothing to live for. They have nothing to live for. Someone has given them a purpose. If you want them to stop trying to kill you, you need to give them a purpose. That is where the right wing, that's where the libertarians need to be. They need to be in the business of giving these people a purpose, giving them something to do. And don't be the person who's there attacking the people who are trying to give them something to do. So if someone comes out and they say, hey, we're going to have universal health care, recognize the political winds. When the political winds have changed, they've changed. You're not going to fight that. You're not going to stop that. There will be universal health care. Now the question is, will people who don't want universal health care have some say in how it's implemented, or will they have no say and have it implemented entirely by people who hate us? That's your option. So accept that there's going to be universal health care and decide to try to make sure that it's as privatized as possible or whatever. Or put yourself into business in such a way that you can survive a universal healthcare mandate and you can provide that service to someone. It's the least you're not going to change the whole world by yourself, but you might start something. You might inspire someone else to do the same. And this is where you can start taking all these things, all the socialism, where, there shouldn't be socialism. Never, just remove that phrase from your mouth. Never spend any time arguing about how bad socialism is. You are preaching to the choir and wasting your time. Instead, focus yourself on making it so that people don't have any desire to call for socialism. Because there's a need for socialism. People want it because they think they need it. They don't know any better. But if you're going to convince them otherwise, you need to have some sort of credibility with them. And just telling them that their shit sucks and that you don't want anything to do with it, all you're doing, you're basically just handing them the empty bottle and filling it with gasoline. Like that's in essence the right wing's role in society right now. The right wing is like, ideologically speaking, is like the guy who's driving around dropping off the pallets of bricks before an Antifa riot. They're just providing all of the ammunition. But then they sit back and cry that they got beat up. Well, yeah, you got beat up because politically speaking, you're a pussy. And these people have been beat on their entire life and they want someone to beat on. And because you're a pussy, they're going to beat on you because you're the least threatening thing to them. So when you come out then and you say, oh, well, that person, all these right-wing people are being canceled and I don't like that. So within that left-wing person, they shouldn't get canceled either. Cancel culture is bad no matter who it's happening to. That standard is never going to be applied the other direction. And I mean, if you're in the business of trying to win a cupcake and like an attaboy and like being able to like write something nice on your tombstone, like he was fair to the people who wanted to kill him, then sure, more power to you. But if you're remotely interested in being in the business of trying to make a difference or trying to improve the world or trying to somehow stand in the way of these people who want to destroy you and everything you care about, then you need to be in a different business. You need to be in the business of providing something tangible to the situation. That's exactly where libertarians and conservatives need to be, providing tangible solutions and thinking about things intelligently. Recognize the situation and think about things intelligently and provide useful solutions to people's problems. And then you don't have to worry about bio-Leninism. You don't have to, when you don't have a disenchanted underclass that just feels like they're desperate and there's nothing to live for and they're just going to do whatever they're going to do, then you don't have to worry about socialism. Nobody's going to want socialism in that case. So you need to be solving that problem, not solving the problem of all the college kids want socialism. You've already lost that battle. That battle's over and done with. You should have been fighting that battle when it was populating the universities with something other than devout Marxists. Once that happened, you lost the kids. The kids are gone. They're done. You're not going to get them back. The only thing you can do now is try to catch them where they are and peel them off one by one and try to get them away into something. So you have to deal with each of them and provide them a solution in their life. Whether it's giving people jobs or basically what it all comes back to is that you need to own a business. You have to be in business for yourself, or at least high up within a business where you have hiring capability, or where you can direct funding, where somehow you can be involved in moving the money around. This is where libertarians need, this pitch for the other podcast, libertarians need wealth, power, and influence. That's what it comes down to, and conservatives too.
What would be the equivalent if we somehow we took control of the opposition party and we just went old school. We just went straight. This is the party of Christianity. This is the party of Jesus, straight up and down. And we wanted to just move the Overton window just way the hell over. Like we talked about, oh, look at you doing that. That looks good.
That's slick.
How do you do that? Yeah.
There's a little thing here that says add to broadcast.
Ooh.
Amy, for people who are listening to this, Amy said she posted a Mother Teresa quote, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples."
And then she said, "Screw Mother Teresa."
Right. Yeah. She's a nun. You can't do that.
Right. Yeah, she sounds cute. This Amy chick.
She's not bad. She's pretty amazing. She makes really, really awesome babies.
You got to bring him in for one.
Yeah. I should.
We have to get to 100 subscribers at some point. Also, it would be an amazing goal to sort of do the subscription race against the see what we can say to get canceled, because like they wouldn't cancel like a teeny tiny channel unless you're like really saying something. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see which one like sort of plays out. Anyway, moving
like we get to push the envelope more and more the more subscribers we get.
Yeah. Oh well, no, I'm saying like you can say crazy stuff, but if you have 2 subscribers, they're not going to bother with you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So just kind of seeing where that apex is of like how many subscribers do you need to say to be able to survive saying what this level of crazy, because eventually you have to tone it back. But yeah, so if we want to move our Catholic theocracy party, we want to use that to move the Overton window way over here. And just a discussion like universal healthcare, what would it be? Everything's on the table. Like we're going to clone Ron Paul and just have Christian hospitals everywhere. Would that be our stake in the ground way the hell over here?
I
have
think
fun
that
arguing with us?
it'd be something, yeah, something along those lines. It'd be you'd need to approach it like an engineering problem. Okay, so what we want is we want to maximize, um, we want to maximize all of this stuff here, and really you can't direct it from the top. Like you can't direct it top down. You can just create the opportunity for it to happen, and
Mm.
and this is so I don't know what the solution would be, but I think that the solution has to be it's going to require a lot of money for one thing. And so you're going to need to raise a lot of money. So you're going to need to do something that generates and raises a lot of money. Ultimately, this isn't going to be something that's able that can be accomplished from a high like a top-down federal level. It's not going to be something that you can do at that level. But if there's options in front of you, because right now libertarians and conservatives don't control any cultural power. They don't control. They don't get to introduce options to the scene. They just get to choose between the ones that are there. They need to be in the business of creating the options down the road, creating the options that will be available eventually.
Yeah, there were two really great quotes. And so when you say, I think eventually, in getting people used to the idea of like the scale of time, that's involved. It just, when we were talking about the fact that this guy's sitting in jail, pre-World War One, writing what we consider to be the missing link of ideologies that's even before that we're seeing today. Just like this is going to eclipse our lifetimes. It could, because yes. Even one of his quotes was, and this is World War One time frame. Socialism is the
opiate of the masses.
Socialism is what must be used. No. He said that socialism. I was trying to remember the quote and I wrote it down. But socialism is the religion to conquer Christianity or something that. Something close to that.
Yes, like socialism is the ultimate religion to destroy Christianity.
Yeah, like that. Like so, it's like this is deliberate. You know what I mean? And so, in because we do kind of talk about religion, especially Christianity, quite a bit on this, and I think there's a good reason for that. I mean, they saw that as being a real hedge against all this, and that it was crucial for them to eliminate it. And in the case of Catholicism with the Pope, they're infiltrating it, and like all this critical theory stuff is everywhere. It's at your job, your corporate job. If you have a corporate job, you've had like race sensitivity training and like whatever other stuff that they've put into corporate America. But the other quote,
here's a thing to consider with that is that if the people who want to live in the exact world that you don't, the people who have made it their life's mission to destroy the world you want to live in, if they said the first thing we need to do to accomplish that is to destroy Christianity, then that should tell you that Christianity is essential for the world that you want to live in, the lifestyle that you want to have, the country, the nation, the community, whatever world you want to exist in that matches your ideals, your values. It has to involve Christianity in some way. The fact that it works is itself, it's like nothing is more true than the thing that works. So if it works, that makes it like uber true. It's as true as it can possibly be, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't work. So,
which actually ties into what your wife is saying right now, because another, he was talking about destroying the family, and your lovely wife said another Mother Teresa quote: "If you want to bring happiness to the whole world, go home and love your family."
Yes.
So, like the pillars that are like very overtly and explicitly being attacked, it's like those are what you want to make sure that you shore up.
Yes. That's you want to shore up the thing basically in order that they wanted to attack it. Those are the things that need to be your priority. And notice that the very last thing that they went after is the state. So that should tell you something about the importance and the necessity of the state. It's the thing that seals the deal once you have everything else. But until you have everything else, you don't need to bother with it, because you're not going to accomplish anything with it.
Because everyone has heard the quote, politics is downstream from culture.
Yes.
But he actually, the second quote, the quote that he had was, in culture is downstream from education.
Yes.
So that's they're laying out the blueprint.
Yep. And that's where, so if they're laying out, so you have to reverse engineer the blueprint. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay, so I think that was basically the gist of what I had on my mind today. There was one other, so to tie it into GameStop, this was because that was in the title. What you're seeing here, I think there's a strong impulse for a lot of people to see this and think that there's one other story I wanted to touch on too. There's a lot of impulse here for people to see this as they want to wrestle it into whatever narrative. This is the same with every major story like this. Everyone wants to wrestle it into like that. Oh, hey, this proves my story. This proves I was right. This proves that my vision of the world is the best one. And in this case, it's kind of interesting because the left has historically positioned themselves as the champion of the underdog. So they are the role of the left in society is to advocate for the downtrodden, to advocate for the oppressed. And the role of the right is to advocate for the institutions. The role of the right is to advocate for the structures, the skeleton. They're the ones who provide the order, the structure of the nation, of the society. Well, now you have what's ostensibly supposed to be the downtrodden, the oppressed guy, the little guy, the trader, the retail trader with $3,000 portfolio. That guy historically would be the prime candidate for the left, whereas the right would be the ones defending Wall Street. But now we have the people who are doing this are from a wide range of backgrounds, right? Wide range of ideological backgrounds, but they're inhabiting a personality that has been established within our culture as the most radical of right-wing people. So a Reddit person, a Reddit user that's a troll that goes after the established power structures is a right-wing troll. That's what he's just. He's a Nazi. He's a Hitler lover. He's whatever. So now that narrative, they have to try to force that narrative somehow. But everyone can see that they're explicitly advocating for not only the institutions but the most corrupt of the institutions. So there's like nothing more right-wing than advocating for an institution that's like necrotic and falling apart. I mean, like true right-wing would be like, oh, the institution's bad, we need to replace it with something else. But they're going as far in their advocacy for the institution as they possibly can. So they have to try to paint these guys, these guys must be, they have to be white supremacists. They have to be white supremacists. And I think this is where they've gone wrong. Because what just happened was the left became the right, and the right became the left. And they've swapped spots in full view of everyone. So now everyone's like, all these people who were like, hey, we're the downtrodden, we're the Antifa, we're the, blah, 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 blah. They've realized that wasn't actually the downtrodden people, that the downtrodden people were pawns. That the downtrodden people were the foot soldiers for the actual thought leaders who are all bougie liberals. They're all bougie, like Harvard grads. These are the people who have populated communism into the country. They're the ones who are driving this bus. And that has I think that this is where the tide really starts to turn, because now suddenly all the narratives are going to fall apart, and they're having to get crazier and crazier in trying to hold the narrative together. And I really hope that these guys, I hope these autists, as they call themselves, I hope they just keep pushing this envelope, because they're really there has been nothing apart from the election of Trump that has pantsed these people quite like this whole GameStop scenario. But what this also illustrates to you is, if you are the powers that be, why you don't want a disenchanted, angry underclass. Because that underclass will stick it in your butt at their first opportunity. And that's what these guys are doing. And they have got them by the short hairs because they got them in the money. Now, they're going to give them the opportunity to clap down even harder. And they're going to. But now they're getting to the point where it's like you're forcing them to play their hand early. They don't want to play their hand yet. They want to hold it back until they've secured everything. But if you force them to play their hand early, it reveals who they are. And once you see, really, this is just a game of trying to get enough people to see what's happening, trying to get enough people to see who these people are. Because really, the vast majority of people, and especially the vast majority of people who have money, like the vast majority of the money ultimately would be against this if they knew what it was. But people are naive and well-meaning and gullible. And so they get sucked along, and these communists, again, there's explicit communists, they play on the good nature of people who just are just like, yeah, I just want to go along to get along. Yeah, racists are so bad. I don't want to live. I don't want to be around racists. Racists are really bad. And so this is the Achilles heel. Nobody wants to be around a racist. Nobody wants to be associated with a racist. So they just turn everyone into a racist because this is what drives everything.
I tried to mute it. Damn it! I tried so hard to mute that. Oh shit!
I was like, what the hell is happening?
I was trying so hard to mute that. And I just didn't.
Oh, that was great. That was fun.
Someone here said Rush Limbaugh and Hannity were cheering on GameStop. It was bizarre. And meanwhile, didn't you have Bernie coming out to the defense of? I mean,
well, like what he and Ilhan Omar are trying to push this narrative where they say speculation has gone on for long enough. It's time for a capital gains tax. It's like,
yeah, okay.
So all these guys who just took on the hedge funds and made a crap load of money, now you're going to tax them even more. What is it that makes you think that that's that? But again, here, okay, I'm getting sucked into the trap. It's completely inane for them to do this, but it works. I just got sucked into the trap of oh, it's stupid, or how could they be so dumb? It works because people get focused on that and they miss out on the opportunity that these people are pressing the flesh at every frickin' chance. And it's just a matter of time before they get it through. They've seeded the ground. They've seeded the territory for it. And by seeded, I don't mean given up, not C-E-D-E-D, but S-E-E-D-E-D. They have seeded the territory. They've planted seeds that are going to sprout someday. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren Elizabeth Warren actually came out and like explicitly caping for them, which is Elizabeth Warren's a corporate lawyer. This has been her entire career. The dude's like the chick is like the dude. the chick is like the most hypocritical. There it is. Yep. The chick is like the most hypocritical person in the business. But there's a reason that she's been as successful as she is, because hypocrisy sells. That you can get away with it if you're on the left, because they will, to them, it's a sign of it's like a what do you call it? Like a sign where they're advertising to their own species. They're like they're preaching to their own choir, and they're ensuring that they maintain their cabal. They will ride and die together no matter what. As long as you pledge fealty to the utopia, the leftists will ride and die together against all odds. They will work together on anything. So then this also should tell you the neocons, the Project Lincoln guys, these guys are working with the left. I mean, so that should tell you something about neoconservatism. But really, like, that's where we're starting to pull the mask off a little too much, probably. That's where we're probably starting to venture into the territory that gets this channel deleted. But that's now basically the neocons are the bridge between Antifa and what's his name? Klaus Schwab. That's your or Bill Gates. The neocons are the bridge between Antifa and Bill Gates. Anyways, so I think that was basically about all I had here. Let me see some of these comments real quick before we wrap this up. Go ahead if you have anything else you want to add.
No, I think the answer more and more is on a spiritual level. I know that one of the guys who listens, buddy of mine, John, he has he started doing a YouTube series called Mind Your Business, and I know he's really into meditation. I haven't gotten a chance to check it out yet, but I want to. I just found some really good chant music that I'm going to try to see if I can incorporate into when I listen to that. But I've seen things like Tho Bishop posted just kind of out of the blue around the same time that that I found a church that I started going to. He said that he hadn't been to church in years, and he, started going back. So I do think that there's an impulse with people who, oh Lord, P plus one. Oh boy. I do think that people who are kind of in tune to what's going on, kind of realize that this is all right. Left and right aren't making sense anymore. The political compass isn't making sense anymore. Nothing's making sense anymore. We're talking to with people who have intentionally no commitment to logic and are embracing hypocrisy. This is spiritual. This is on a spiritual level, and I think more and more, people who feel lost right now, or hopeless, or confused as to what action that they can take. It is stuff like on a very small level. It is taking care of your family. It is being a better person. It is aligning yourself spiritually. And it's if you don't know what that means, I think it's time that people have to kind of just dedicate some time during each day to sort of come closer to figuring out what that is.
Yes.
Or orienting yourself towards the good, or seek wisdom and you'll find God. Well, what's God? To you, what idea are you comfortable with? With that, and like I said, the mosaic of virtue and truth and good. If that is something that makes you if you're one of these people who has sort of like feels like inhibited and doesn't want to, isn't comfortable with the idea of outright pursuing God, like you think of it as a man in the sky. You got to figure out what God is to you, because I more and more I think it's the only real long-term answer, and we have a long-term problem.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it. Whether or not you believe God exists, if God did exist, by definition, he'd be pretty important. And really, regardless of who or what God is, or what you think God is, I'm not even here to try to persuade you yet about a specific God. I want to implant the demand. I want to reveal where you need it. And it's not just that you need it on like a personal level, like, oh, you need to be saved. I'm not even saying it from that perspective. I'm saying this we're saying this from the perspective of the people who are up against you have a God, and they're using their God to destroy you and everything you love. So you need to find your God, whatever that is.
What do you got?
What?
I said, what? So what do you got?
Right. Yeah. What do you got? What do you got to go after them with? Because they're going to beat you with their God. So you better figure out how to use yours. And ultimately, you're facing a spiritual problem, because this is a spiritual phenomenon. And so you need to get right with the spiritual. Just become fluent in the spiritual, if for no other reason than so that you know how to combat these people. Because there's this funny thing that once you start doing that, once you become fluent in the spiritual, then a lot of stuff starts clicking. And this is where you might get the law of attraction or whatever. But everything, like, things just kind of start working out. They start coming together. You start, because really to memorize the spiritual, to get in touch with the spiritual, is really you're getting in touch with reality. You're aligning with reality. You can think of it as like you're orienting yourself in alignment with the source of truth. Whatever the universal source of truth is, wherever truth comes from, you're aligning with that. You're trying to be as connected with reality as you possibly can. And once you do that, then everything starts coming together. Everything starts to click, and then a lot of this stuff will become. It's like scales falling from your eyes. A lot of this stuff becomes really clear. Like, you see the world very clearly, and you see like the path forward really, really clearly.
Independent of the fact that I lit myself on fire tonight and also couldn't mute my microphone and sneezed and like had several other mishaps, I will say that since I have been making a conscious effort and I've just dipped my toe, I've seen things line up better for me. And so, when I was in this state of just like, what are we going to do? The world's over, this and that, this is hopeless. We're up against everything. And, the advice is given to me, well, pray, find God, just these things. It's like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what do we do? Like, what do we do? Actions that we do, not just pray. Okay, I'm going to pray, but like, what do we? It's just like the second I was able to let go of that and like just dedicate some time to prayer and in spirituality, independent of feeling better, I've seen small changes, and I'm looking forward to where they go. So, advice from Uncle Stevie Boy. Just a little anecdote right
That's
there.
good stuff. That's good stuff. I got to give a shout out to my little boy, to Eastwood. If you're talking about like getting right with the world and like aligning yourself with spirituality, man, I mean, everyone who has a kid will, this is like old hat to them, but and everyone who doesn't have a kid is probably tired of hearing it, but this is the type of thing that you say when you have a kid and you just had a kid and you want to talk about him, people just have to listen. And he is, I was telling some people on the phone today while I was making some phone calls that he is, well, first of all, he's the best thing that I've ever done, but he's a little mirror. I can see it in him already. I can see him that he is just sitting there, just taking in every single thing and reflecting it back to me. So if I'm in a bad mood, then I can sense, he can sense my energy. He connects to my energy, and he reflects it back to me. And really, there's nothing that's special about him compared to anybody else. This is how human beings are. Human beings are mimetic machines. Human beings learn by comparing themselves to other human beings. And there's a lesson in here that if you want to change the world, you have to act like the person that will change the world, because then other people will act like you. I don't care who you are, you have people who act like you. And for me, having this son and suddenly realizing that I have a person that's in my house all the time who is entirely dependent upon me and is learning, taking in every single thing that I do, is just absorbing it and having it implanted upon him. Suddenly I'm like, I don't want all of my stuff to get implanted on him. I don't want my bad habits getting implanted in him. I want him to I want him to be free to create his own. Yeah, I don't want him to create any bad habits. Obviously that's not realistic. I know that he's gonna have some of his own, but I just pray that he doesn't have mine. And it's up to me to ensure that he doesn't. But that's just so to like the thing that I've had to do is I just try to focus on the source of truth, aligning myself with the universal source of truth. And I know that if I do that, then I will know how to act. I will know how to behave. I will know how to live if I'm connected, because truth is life. And if I'm connected with the truth, I'll be connected with the life. Let's go run through some of these comments here real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. Thanks, Wyman. Congrats on the baby boy. This is what my wife said. Amy said, I wasn't sure if God existed until we were in a room overwhelmed with spirituality and love. Then 11 months later, our son was born, and I knew for sure God is real. And that was the moment she's talking about was kind of amusingly to some people, maybe. We went to a Kanye West Sunday service, and it was a profoundly spiritual experience. That man is tapped in. He is tapped into the source. He is straight channeling positive energy, and he's going to change the world. Like he's going to, because you can't channel energy like that without having a really profoundly positive impact on the world. And it's been a beautiful thing watching the way that it affected Amy too, watching her experience that. And then over the last year, I think it was year and like 13 months or something now. It definitely, there's kind of like a before that moment and after that moment in our lives. It had a really great spiritual effect on us. And then, so Wyman was asking about P plus one, or about the 17s. And that is I at this point, I kind of don't know what to believe. I'm willing to kind of believe just about anything right now. And so I'm kind of just in a holding pattern. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. I'm hearing a lot of stuff, and the media is more closed off and corrupt and like deceitful than they ever have been. And so I think that there's, I don't really know how to talk about this stuff publicly. I'll just say that I think that there's something that's happening. There's something going on behind the scenes. There's not a everything's not over, but I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know at this point. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but it hasn't been made clear to me that there's nothing there. So I just don't know what the nature of it is. I know that there's something out there. There's something that's going on. There's too many influential, wealthy, focused people who are connected to this and invested in this, and ultimately the truth comes out. And I know that the P plus one thing is aligned. At the core of it is aligned with truth. So I know that there's stuff that's going to come out. It's a matter of when and how. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at right now. And then I'm mostly just trying not to talk about it publicly because I don't feel like getting myself in trouble.
Yeah, we're gonna see if we could get dropped from YouTube before we hit 100 subscribers for being too controversial. But I think we hit 100 subscribers. Shout out to Corey, the 100th.
Nice.
There's
right
one
on.
from the there's one from the part of the problem, the old the de facto Facebook group that exists now.
Uh-huh.
And I posted a link just to let people know. I was like, yeah, me and Maddie are talking. And
Nice.
I don't know, maybe you get the idea. Yeah.
The same picture.
Yeah, it's very, very, very good.
I'm just going to take all of Dave's audience. Yeah, Wyman, hopefully not common consolidation. One thing I will say is that people have been comparing it to that one Russian operation, the P plus one thing, to that one Russian operation, saying, oh, this is the same thing. It was a honeypot to try to like lull right wingers into pacifism or whatever. That doesn't even begin to make any sense. Number one, the whole concept of Fed posting exists for a reason. The Feds aren't really into lulling people into pacifism. And second of all, what did P plus one, what did it prevent people from doing? Like, if anything, it would have prevented more people from marching on the Capitol. And that's a good thing, because if we're talking about things that work, then marching on the Capitol was not a thing that worked. That was not a wise move. And there's a reason why I don't want to say, there's a reason why there was only a certain category of people. There was almost exclusively a certain category of people that was doing that. And the rest of them were dummies. So they were a bunch of hillbillies. Wyman says, if we comment in the live chat about it, does it affect things? I'll be better if so. Sorry. I don't think it does. I think that you're probably safe. As long as you're speaking in code like you were, that's probably good. Anyways, we're coming up on a little over an hour and a half here, and I have been talking all day. I have spent so much time talking to people today. I'm surprised I still have a voice, but I really want to go spend some time with my wife and my son before I have to go to bed. So, Steven, this was fun.
I'm going to go curl up in the fetal position.
Why?
No, well, without my wife and my kid.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, now I feel bad.
It's a joke. No,
let's get you one. Let's get you one.
Just dark humor. Yeah. All right.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks a bunch. This has been King Pilled. And if you could if you like the show, if you could like it and share it and subscribe to the show, and then do us a favor, like I said, share it. Go share it with some people. Go in your different groups or your Telegram channels or on Twitter or wherever you're at. Go share it. Go tell someone else about it. And I would, because one thing that Jason does, I'll say this real quick on Wealth, Power, and Influence. He says to share it with someone who you think will like it, and then share it with two people who you think will like it, one person who you think won't, and who you think needs to hear it. I'm going to say, please don't share this with someone who you think wouldn't like it. I don't want to talk to them. I only want to talk to someone who's interested in what we have to say. I don't want to argue with people. I'm not in the business of arguing. I'm not in the business of evangelism. I'm in the business of preaching to the choir. I want an echo chamber, and I want to preach to the choir. So that's what we want.
People.
Yes.
3 people who would just fucking love it and do anything.
And if somebody wouldn't like it, then please keep them as far away from this as possible. We don't want them.
Don't share it on Facebook. That's what we're trying to say. Do not share this on Facebook unless it's a weird group that's like days away from being deleted. That's where you can share this.
Or as long as you only have friends who are cool. If you have any friends who are dickheads, then don't share it on Facebook.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Peace.